I am gonna grab me one of these Jack Links.
Dude, I'm telling you, yeah. I mean, welcome back to the Songwriter Snack Time podcast. And let's just start out with the fact that, like, our snack of choice today is Jack Link's original beef and cheese. Now, Jason Caddy is our guest today, and I appreciate you coming by, bro, and just talking about music and songwriting, and we got a lot to discuss. But the first thing we got to discuss is the Jack Link's original beef and cheese. What's the story here, man?
Man, that's pretty simple. I tried that keto thing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff on the keto thing that I couldn't. Let's say I didn't remain on the keto thing, but one of the things that stayed was the Jack Link's and cheese. So, and they come in these small packs, so it's pretty convenient.
Yeah.
But because I was traveling a lot with my job, and so, man, you could take these things, and it was one of the few things that I was allowed that actually taste good. That's the thing. I don't know if it's on there are probably some keto, enthusiasts who would say this is cheating.
Yeah.
Even though, but by the rule.
Oh. I bet if you go cheese and sausage
that's the way to do it. That's why you saw I folded back.
Oh, you got a strategy.
Yes, and I bite them at the same time. That way I always get an equal.
See, now we're educating people. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's good, bro. That's good. Well, maybe one day we'll get a sponsorship. We'll see. No, seriously, thanks for coming by, man. And I wanted to bring you in on this podcast show because ever since we started, our relationship is relatively new. Last couple months, been working on your stuff, and man, it's been a real joy to me. And so when we started talking about you as a producer, you as an artist, you as a songwriter, I was like, man, you have a lot of things going on that I think as we kick off some more episodes of this show, it'd be really cool to sit down and talk with you. So thanks again for coming by, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time. Man, give people a little bit of backstory. Like, what was your first? When did music start to really impact your life? And we'll get into a lot of other things, but when did it start? Like, what were your earliest memories of when music had an impact on you?
Man, it's funny. The earliest memory I have is, like not necessarily. I don't know if it impacted me, if it played a part or not, but my mother sang all the time. Like, it was in the bathroom while she's cleaning up. As do probably, I don't know, come to find out, I know a lot of people play music while they clean up, and a lot of people, but like it was, and she still to this day, probably not as much, but it was a lot for me to remember it, right? Like, and I was like, man, because when you sent me the little list about what to think about, I was like, man, that's the first thing that jumped out. I was like, that's probably my first.
That's cool.
To where you notice, like, Mom, you sing all the time.
Yeah,
right?
What kind of stuff was she singing? Like church stuff, gospel stuff?
Church and like, Patti LaBelle or Aretha Franklin type. What was theirs? They considered their stuff back in the day, or it might have been like, depending on whatever the times was, from Shaka Khan or whatever, those types of deals. Whereas I didn't know it at the time what it was, but looking back at it, I figured out what it was.
Well, and then you told me, see, I didn't know that you were a player. I thought, because in technology is crazy, like we were talking about Splice earlier, and like the fact that you can just get whatever you want and sound like a G in a second. But it's like when you told me that you play the piano, because a lot of your music is it has a lot of key stuff to it. And I was like, who's doing all that stuff? And you're like, dude, I'm a piano player. So like, when did you start? Like, did you take lessons as a kid?
Yeah, that's funny because that's the actual first memory I have of where I was like, okay, I want to do this. So I went, we had this lady named Janelle Whitby. I don't know if she was starting a middle music school or she had started and was trying to grow her bass, but she came to my elementary school. She handed out these flyers. And all I remember to this day, I remember telling my parents I want to play like Stevie Wonder, right? And I took it home to them and not realizing then what sacrifice it was for my parents then, and where they were at in their life financially.
Yeah.
They went ahead and sprung for it. And But as a kid, I'm 5 years old, looking at Stevie Wonder on Video Soul, like, hey, this is it, man. I want to be like that cat.
Yeah.
Thinking I'm gonna be this like in a couple of months. Time is relative to a kindergartner.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna sit down and learn this real quick, and
Easy.
I'm gonna be on Video Soul, right? Man, 13 years later, as I grew, I despised it a little bit because I started liking sports, hanging out with my friends, and so Miss Whitby was like, "No, you got to do in the beginning. It's 30 minutes a day." Which you look back at it was really nothing.
Yeah.
And then then it became 45 minutes and an hour as you got older. The more of a time crunch it was every day. So that was on top of sports, on top of girls, on top of whatever else I had going on, chores. Mm-hmm. And my parents were like, "You do this, like homework, this, then you do that stuff you want."
Wow, okay.
So I'm like, this is so. Of course, I despise.
So you kind of hated it, loved it, hated it, kind of like back and forth with it.
Loved it in the sense I liked improv, and Miss Whitby knew I liked improv, So I think, and there were quite a few of us that liked improv in the class, and I think she realized she couldn't go straight classical.
You're like, is Stevie reading music when he's playing? He's like, he's just playing.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. But you don't
Why
know
I gotta read music?
Right. Hey, I'm like, this dude is just jamming. And, and of course, church, I go to church, and there's a lot of improv at church.
Right.
And it's just like, hey, this is the music I want to play, this stuff that makes you move, not this classical stuff.
Yeah.
But then she was like, this is the fundamentals. But then I don't know if she learned as we learned, and she started giving us a little more like jazz, classical jazz. Mm-hmm. That played to me a little bit, cool. Letting us improv a little bit, where it became part of the chorus. But I still was like, man, basketball practice or this, talking to some girl or this, I'd rather do this. Until in high school, I played for one of my teachers asked me to play for some recital or some event we had.
And then you got the girls with the music.
And the girls said, "Oh, we like this." And I was like, "Wait a minute now, this might be something to this."
You didn't make that connection before.
Right. It never came because I always tried to suppress that I played piano. The only places I played it were like church, of course. Yeah. And the church, they praise you, like, "Oh, yeah. We're going to support the kids trying to do this."
Right.
And then, but when it came to school, I tried to keep it from my teammates. But then come to find out, even when my teammates found out, they thought it was cool. It was like, that whole time I was thinking like, they gonna tease me or whatever.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But then I'm glad my parents made me stay. Like,
dude,
it was one of the things they said, you committed. And I think it was the point that they had put so much in that it was like, there's no way you're going to actually stop this before you graduate.
Well, the keyboard the piano essentially is like so beautiful because it teaches you harmony. It teaches you like so much about music, that melody, chords. Right. It's like, it's all there that we even think like my 10-year-old, he's been taking lessons since he was 7, I think. And then we just started our 7-year-old on lessons. And it's just whether they continue it with it, whatever, but it's like, I just think it's a good foundational thing,
I agree. It's looking back because my little brother took it as well. And what's funny is he's probably the better musician out of both. Oh, wow. And like, he's one of those cats where, I think
is he here locally or is he out somewhere?
No, he's in Virginia, D.C. area. Okay. And so, but the crazy thing is, I think he was in it a little bit too, but it came, I think, more naturally to him than me. Like, I had to practice probably a little more to get to where he could just, like he's like now, he's just like, man, during COVID, I'm just trying to pick up this guitar real quick. Like, it's like that, like, oh, okay,
Okay.
just pick up the guitar and play a few tunes, you know. So that's pretty cool. But they made both of us stick with it, and I think we're both actually, we're definitely better off for it. And and it gives you just a discipline. It shows you that if one thing I learned, that nothing happens overnight. You know, so
man, so true. I remember like learning how to play guitar and just my fingers just hurting so
bleeding.
much, and just like my sister telling me to shut up constantly, and just like all kinds of stuff. You just forget those days, man. Because now I joke about how like, I don't know if you feel like this as a musician, but I've reached this threshold where it's like I can pretty much play what needs to be played and just figure it out. So it's not like, but I kind of feel like it's a handicap because I feel like if I could push through that ceiling,
don't push yourself.
Yes, I don't know anything. I'm just kind of same old stuff until I get inspired to create something different. But
well, that's the difference though. But that's the difference between playing your instrument and producing with your instrument.
Yeah.
That's the big difference.
Yeah.
I think I actually lost skill from when I became a producer.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to hear in pop music. You're not hearing, trills and scale, progressions, and and for the longest you didn't hear chord changes, so it was like a lot of that stuff. Fortunately, it doesn't leave you. I mean, you just got to get like reacquainted with it.
Just spend some time with it. My wife jokes to this day because one night she found me in bed just like with my bass guitar, just like this, just with my mouth open, just like she was like, "What is happening right now? You're just like sleeping with your bass."
That's probably the equivalent of me in my studio, like over the keyboard. I'm like, you left me like that. It's like, well, you look like you.
She saw you and just kept going. Right. Jason's good. He's good. Being a musician, that's one thing, but like being a songwriter, because you have a lot of songs that I want to get into, and we're gonna perform one today. But like, was that always with you being a musician? Like you thinking like, I could write songs? Because writing is a different thing too. Like I'm learning more days. Like there's a lot of divisions between guys that are and girls that are just songwriters.
Right.
Then you have people that are just producers, and it's like. For you, it's a little bit. You're a producer, but you're a songwriter. You're an artist. Like, explain that a little bit.
I think that the improv part is what led to maybe production. Is that I never was, and I don't know when. I can't remember back when it first started clicking, but I even remember listening to songs like because my father, like I guess he listened to like Kool and the Gang and that kind of stuff. I'm from Tulsa, so Gap Band, Charlie Wilson, funk, Earth, Wind, Fire, that kind of stuff. But I even remember listening to those songs even before I knew what sampling was and saying, man, I could do this. Like take it and flip it a little bit, and then even with the classical songs that I was learning on the piano, it was always, let me add this little, fifth note up here and make it. Let's take it from classical to more gospel sound, and it's that. I don't know when that kind of kicked in, but I do remember like me and my friends sitting around before I had a keyboard and being like, "Hey, it'd be dope if I was playing this part and you were doing this part and the drums are doing this." And before then we didn't have drums, so it was like beatboxing. So it's like you beatbox and I play this. Yeah. And it is crazy because even then, there wasn't any aspirations.
Yeah.
And it was just like, hey, this is fun and we like doing it. And I don't know if have you all seen the movie The 5 Heartbeats? Okay.
Somebody to check out?
If you ever get a chance, watch The 5 Heartbeats.
Okay.
That movie probably subconsciously had a lot to do with my musical career, so to speak. Because after school, I mean, me and my buddies, we come in, we watch that thing, and we could sing it, perform it. Like it's about a group of like a band, a 5-member band or whatever, singing group. Okay. And so we would break up the pieces and everybody would do their little parts and we enjoyed it, but I think that kind of like started introducing me into being like parts, like harmonies, melodies, that kind of thing, whereas I didn't think about it before. And then...
Were you a singer along the way too?
That was the only singing I had done was like in church.
Yeah.
So for like, I always was in the youth choir. I was in the mass choir, but I never had done like a solo or anything like that. It was just kind of blending in with everybody else. And then, but the ultimate thing I was like, I'm gonna be a rapper. That's when I never wanted to be a singer.
Bro, when you rapped in that session, I was like, man, that's cool too, man. You're singing and you're rapping.
Yeah, I guess because most of the songs I submitted to you, they were singing songs. And that's crazy. I think that's just an evolution of, I've always had things I've wanted to say and sing. But, I guess in college I had people there who could sing them. And there were people who sang better than me, so I was always like like I wouldn't, like it was always, or to some degree they would kind of laugh it off if I was like, hey, I can sing this part, and they'd be like, I can sing that part, and so you kind of think like, well, man, okay, maybe I suck, but then I come to grips with they're gonna be great singers and they're gonna be terrible singers. I'm in the middle. You know, like everybody can sing. It's just some sound better than others.
Yeah.
And even people that you think sound terrible, other people think sound great. So it's just a matter of form of expression and getting the idea. And where I think somebody else can enhance it, or I can afford somebody else, then I go get it.
Well, what's really interesting about the song specifically that we worked on is I want to talk a little bit about the idea of collaboration. Because you brought me this first song with this girl singer. I was like, this girl's phenomenal, man, like crazy. But then you have other songs with other singers, and like there's guitar players and there's a drummer and there's like, you know, I play bass on one. So it's like, man, like what do you buy into that idea, I guess, that like we're almost better, like the end product is going to be better the more people that you include? Or
definitely. I think, like, it's funny you say that. I have a song called, you know, Better Together. And I mean, that's the theme is, of course, I think we work better, some lessons to be learned. But I think it applies to music too. Like, I've always been around people to collab. Like, this is the first time, even though I'm by myself, you know, I'm still able to collab with other people. But every time, when I look back at, even when I was in college or high school trying to do music, there was always people around me to assist. Like my roommates, you know, they were producers. I mean, what's funny is I guess not my first roommate, but my second roommate in college, random, you know, we don't know each other, we just showing up. He comes from a church background. He can sing, plays drums, rapped. Damn. You know, he could program. Cool. He was a good producer. Like, I learned a lot from him, just as far as like drums and bass and stuff that I didn't really know. That he had grow up learning, and it's like, no, this is how you make it knock, and this is how you get that head nod or whatever. And then, you know, our next door, Sweet Mate or whatever, he was from Alaska. He played. I mean, he was more of an R&B type cat. I mean, he produced, he sang, and then this is just like happenstance. This wasn't like planned or anything. And I think that attracts other people. Like, once people find out you're doing something, you start getting other people coming around. So I've always been in a collaborative environment, and it was where I learned. You know, I would like to believe I gave as much as I learned, you know, but I know I learned a lot from other people. And so in the projects where we worked together, I always thought sounded better than the individual when we were separated. You know, and and I think that it's just, you get different perspectives, different people, you know. They might hear a bass line differently. Like even with the bass lines you did, you know, I would have never come up with those bass lines, you know, or some of the guitar parts, or even the vocal parts. Ariana, the girl you're talking about on the Cold,
she cold.
I would have never thought of the way she did the harmonies on there. You know, it was like, okay, like this is you're on a whole nother level, and like that's what I think gives it that sound. Like, even my wife said, hearing that song with her on it makes it sound professional. Now I was like, damn, I don't know how to take that though. I don't know how to take what it was amateur, you know, before. But I mean, we joked, but I don't think she meant it like that. But it was just like, you know, some people can offer something to a sound that just takes it from, you know, your studio to, I could hear that on the radio. I could hear that on, you know, at a concert or whatever.
Well, there's a mentality these days of where like there's almost like I can learn anything and do everything and play everything. I don't need a drummer. I'll just program the drums. And it's like, yes, you can, but there may be value in like having a drummer on this track. It's like, and so I go back and forth with it all the time, because I'm like, nowadays I'm like, man, I'd rather just get that guy involved. I need this guy. It's like, I just know in my mind what needs to happen to like make it sound the best it can be. You know what I mean? And not every song requires everything, you know, but I was going to ask about your family, because like, do you, I mean, obviously they're supportive, I'm sure, of your music, but you have a daughter. Like, what's the family support been like for you writing these songs and stuff?
What's funny, so that's the reason I even started back writing. So they
give us a little history, because you came out with a project, then there was a space and time.
So I guess to go with the very first, man. Okay, so coming out of, I did nothing prior to in high school I did like a couple of talent shows, and to be honest, and I have to say this, and I always said if I ever, got acknowledged in any kind of way, I would always speak of. We had this one of my classmates named Megan. She was phenomenal artist, producer, right? Like she just, how some people just have it all, right? And you just like, man. And so I was always, in the beginning, I was scared to perform. And, and I wanted to be a part of a group, so kind of take that edge off of being on stage by myself. Well, some of the groups I went to, they were like, we got our people, or we don't want you, or we never heard you do anything, so why should we? And I was like, okay, that's cool. We had a talent show coming up, and I was like, man, if I'm gonna do this, I want to see how it sound or whatever. And so she volunteered to help me out, which was a big thing because I was like, I needed a woman singing, and I didn't know that many women that sang outside of my church, and they were grown women, right? But I knew like a couple in school sang, but they were like upperclassmen who I was like, I don't want to go ask these upperclassmen. Well, then I knew she sang, so I went to her and was like, hey, can you mind doing this with me? I don't really want to be on stage by myself, but I still need somebody to sing. We go and we do it. She had like we got to go rehearse at our church or whatever, so it was a big thing. We were practicing. And so she's showing me like different things, like how we might want to do the harmony on stage, or break down, or actually do beat drops. All my stuff was pretty just, the song is full speed, we're going, And so a lot, I really think if I hadn't had that interaction, I probably would have stopped, and so
that's a big deal.
We did the concert, we did the thing, and of course, we didn't win or anything, but like it was enough to get me, I think, over that hump, and actually where I was like, man, I want to do it was hungry at this point, okay,
gave you that spark.
Yeah, this is it. Now, her soul rest in peace. She's passed away since then.
Oh, wow, okay.
But I attribute if it wouldn't have been for my interaction with her, I wouldn't have moved forward.
That's crazy.
Because it was just like, at that point, it was kind of just something I was dipping my toe in. And after that, because we practiced for maybe like a month or two.
Wow.
3 days a week.
Wow.
And she's showing me like the musical elements that I did not know. Like I knew about just basically making some beats. But she was like, no, you can basically taking beats and putting a musical element to them.
That's dope.
Because I think her father had a church, and so she had been raised like around music. She was just talented. And so then when I went to college, it was just one of them struggles, man. I was always trying to either get with the right partner or get my own thing, or trying to get, at the time, people were trying, No Limit was big, so everybody's trying to start their own record label. And a part of it probably had to do with me being so fearful of somebody taking advantage of me. That trust was hard to gain. But then also, it was just like snake oil salesman, hey, I can do this for you, and I can do this for you. And it's really? And then me and my roommates at the time were like, man, they're not really doing anything for us that we're not doing already, So nothing really happened. Never really did any projects in college. Worked on a lot of other people's projects, which kind of soured me, it was fun because they were my friends. Yeah. But then when you look back at it, it's like, man, they all, getting their stuff made. But and me and the one I told you about that I met, who was the drummer, me and him basically became the engineers, the producers. It was like a lot of it fell on us. And at that point, it started being like work. It was like, man, we're responsible for like, 4 different groups or individual people, let alone what we were trying to do, And because we had a little group called the Smoke Factory, and that's funny, needless to say, what we spent a lot of time doing. But but it was fun. I think it was we performed, we went and toured. We never came out with an album. And then it actually took me getting out of school, moving to Houston, and I think it was like 2002 or 3, I did my first album. And it was me, this guy named Derek Brown, and he's another one of those people that you're like, man, I'd slap you. Like he just has it's silly how much talent he had. And not only that, he's like a graphic designer. Oh, I mean, it's just like you were just touched, right? But me and him, man, we had a good fit, good partnership. But he moved to Maryland.
And what was the name of that again? What did it come out under? I can't remember.
It came out under Sesh Indigo.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's the name. That's my moniker now, and I keep it.
Okay, cool.
But we were going to be like it was supposed to be like a group thing, and that was my very first like release by myself. Yeah. And at the time I was younger, so I went to like a couple places. I did like some shows. Actually did a show where Bun B was, DJ Premier. Like it was because my friend Ike, he was bringing people in. He was promoter. Mm-hmm. And he would let me like open or whatever, So it was cool, but nothing really happened from it, There was really no marketing or anything put behind it. And so I kind of just put it up. Like I met Tinker here and there. Mm-hmm. Well, then once I had kids and a family, my daughter maybe about 2 years ago, it's 2018, of course kids, they just hear what's on the radio.
Yeah,
right? And she's like, she knew I made music. And she said, well, why is your stuff on the radio? And I said, well, it doesn't really work like that. She said, well, why not? She's like, because I can go listen to anything on the internet. Why doesn't it work like that? And I was like, well, there's a machine. I was like, you got to have money, marketing or whatever. And she's like, but, you got some money. You can do your own marketing. Why can't you? And I was like, well, I don't have that kind of money. We're talking like, I said, maybe if I didn't have you and your brother, we'd have some money. But she challenged me, long story short, to put out my own stuff because I was preaching to them like, hey, don't waste time. If you're going to do something, be in it to be the best. Put your all in it. There's no guarantee you're gonna be given tomorrow, so live your best life now. And I'm preaching this to them, but she's looking at it like you're not doing what you're saying, because you telling me this, but you're up in the studio, cranking out these tracks, and we like them. And you like them, so why not put them out? Whatever. Yeah. So I put it out. I made a project, put it out. But it was just more to like say, okay, I told you I was gonna do it. I showed you, I did it, but I didn't do anything behind it. Like I literally just put a Facebook release and said, hey y'all, I got a song, an album out. If y'all like it, go check it out. If not, okay,
Yeah.
Well then, it's the same kind of. She's interested in doing music.
That's cool.
And so I said, during last school season, I said, well, we'll work on it over the summer, and we'll get some stuff for you or whatever, so you can, because she's a good singer.
Yeah.
And so, and she started getting into the production part. Well, COVID happened, and so we had a lot of extra time, plus, I'm sitting there working from home during the day. And so one thing starts leading to another, and it was just like, okay. And then I got to talking to my wife, and, it was like, hey, if you're going to do it, she was like, why do it? Like, don't just put something out. You got to put marketing, but she's like, it's not going to move itself. She's like, you have to put something behind it. Like, you have to make it intentional. Yeah. And so one thing led to another. We did that first song. Cold was the first song I ever did. It was good with her, and I realized then, like, man, wait a minute. I have access. This could actually,
Dude, it's so good.
Be better than I thought. Not that it's gonna make me rich or anything, but I can actually put out in the world the vision that I see it.
Totally.
So even if it doesn't come to, where I can make a living off of it, off of this one album, how about that? Yeah. But I'm at least getting to I know what I'm putting out is like, man, this is how I envisioned it, this is how I heard it, this is how I planned it, and this is how we executed it.
I love it. Well, I haven't asked you I wanted to ask you what, so we've been working on a collection of songs, but like, are they coming out together, separately? What's your release strategy for how you think about them coming out to the world?
Everything's a single. So specifically the first one, the All Right, the one we're doing today, that'll actually be coming, the official release date is November 15th.
Dope, okay.
And then every 2 months after that, I'll release a single.
Love it.
The months in between, I'm releasing an older song, just to kind of keep people interested and keep them hopefully keep them tuning in and coming back. And I'm trying to do a video for each release.
Yeah.
And so that gives me enough time to, and then, we're not talking Michael Jackson type videos here, but
right.
like it gives me enough time to get them together, and and I'm even collabing with people on those, because it's a very low budget, so I'm having to be creative about how we do them.
Totally.
And I'm not one that's like I have to be on the camera in front of every video. That's not even creatively how I think or whatever. So. With that being said, and that every quarter, we'll release everything we just released. Plus, we'll add 2 additional songs and make it a EP. So that way, hopefully, it'll keep it fresh in the market or whatever. And I'm trying to do it because I think it was you who told me that if I put it on Spotify early, it gives them time to kind of curate it. And see
you can
if it
submit
can
it for a playlist thing, and
so I figured 2 months. If I give them 2 months to try to curate and get to that playlist, that should be plenty of time. Man. So hopefully, something will take.
That's awesome, man.
And I figure if you do that for the first year, you look at it by the end of 12 months, I should have somewhere around, 22 releases.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And then that whole time, I'm still making more content. And so who knows?
Man, I'm excited about all these tracks, and you've done such a good job. Like I was saying, like, what are we on track number? All Right was like number to be mixed and mastered was like 3 or 4. I don't know. It was like we've done it.
I think because we did Hate,
Cold,
All Right.
Hate was sick, yeah.
And now you got
and then Starry Eyed. Yeah, 4, whatever. It's like you just are like, and to think a month you're just gonna have another one. It's gonna
and then I had 4 before I met you.
So good.
So like I got a total of 8 right now. Once Starry Eyed is mastered, I'll have 8 complete tracks.
That's sick, bro. That's a lot of good stuff.
That gives me a little buffer.
I love your stuff too because it's so fresh to me, man. Like the ideas are good. Like it feels creative. The lyrics are strong. The story, and I just loved like. Can you talk for a few minutes about like? It seems like your songs too are like more of like, a platform for like saying important things, whether it be culturally what's happening or just like kind of how you feel about certain topics. But like, do you feel like that when it's writing, like when you're writing and something comes, do you feel inspired to, because music is such a powerful tool, you know what I mean? Like, because some of those songs are like hate, and it's just like, there's a lot of deep stuff going on. Like, how do you think about that when you're writing stuff?
Man, I try to approach everything as like, if I was to die tomorrow, what would be my legacy, and then what can my kids, and actually a lot of it is, because I won't know my kids, my future grandkids, my future nephews, nieces, or whatever.
Yeah.
So what would I leave that would allow them to listen and be like, if my uncle was alive, if my father was alive, what would he think about this?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I like to approach everything as legacy. And I mean, and some people, that's a little serious for music, because I know, and I have some lighter tracks, we just haven't gotten to them, but it's because like to me most people, if you told them you knew me, they would think I'm like as a jokester, like, and I like to have fun.
Yeah. You're a good hang in the studio.
But with my music, it's more of sometimes I like to have fun, but I think there's enough of that out there. And like even with like All Right, the whole premise behind it is, growing up, you always hear songs about broken relationships and the single parent home, and it's being battered or domestically abused, or things are trying, or the father's not. It's all and that was something me and my brothers always used to like crack up at. It's like people are always bashing the father. Father's Day, we joke like we get the sock, but Mother's Day comes around, she gets a Bentley. It's just like what? And so, but in our case, and even in my wife's case, and that's how that song came about. We were just talking. We were like, wait a minute, man. I mean, you would think that there aren't families out there to where the father and the mother haven't figured out a way to work it out. Yes, are there hard times? Yes, are they struggling? But yeah, I was like, my family experience is much similar to what we're trying to offer our kids. I grew up with my brother. I have, my mother and father were at home, and at the end of the day, like, because a lot of people say, well, my mom did this, and while my mom, love her to death, and she was always there for us, and she was more of like the like the bulldog, right? But my father, like everybody, I think will understand. Like my father was the one that gave us that comfort. Like we knew, like we didn't want for anything. Like I didn't worry about was I going to eat the next day, and we still were able to have luxuries and comforts that a lot of people weren't able to have.
Totally.
And what's crazy, you grow up thinking, now I will say a lot of people I knew didn't have that. So you kind of suppress that side, because a lot of your friends didn't. So you didn't want to seem like you were like bragging or like putting it in their face.
Right.
But then it's like now culture it seems like they're giving that a big up, like it's an honor to be from the street, it's an honor to be from the trap, or it's an honor to be from the hood. And it's like, wait a minute now, I'm happy, I'm proud that my father, and mother worked it out. I'm proud that they provided for us. Why can't we be just as high on those things, or if we are or not, glorify them? I guess that's my thing.
Right.
We have enough glorification of that, and to me, there's nothing to be there's nothing to show glory about when it comes to that things. And the things we should glorify, we kind of condemn, or we say we shouldn't talk about them. And that's kind of how I approach it with the topics. It's like, even with hate, a lot of things that comes from just growing up, and now I'm older looking back at it, it's like, man, there's a lot of self-hate that people don't classify as self-hate. And growing up, we laugh about this kind of stuff and we joke about it, but they're really expressions of self-hatred, or you don't know how some things you could be doing to somebody could cause them to, hold that in for the rest of their life. You don't know how what you're doing is going to affect them, so be careful of what you're putting in somebody's life. And if you make a promise, try to keep that promise. If you feel a certain way, you don't always have to say it. Or
your parents still around?
Yeah, both of them still around, and
that's awesome.
And ticking. So now it's funny you talk about that music relationship. It's changed.
Oh, okay.
Because I think I brought them so much contempt growing up. Like we're trying to go against the grain, improv. Start the rap group and the band, Screw School.
They've seen a lot of Jason Caddy.
Oh man, they were probably like, "What is this dude? What did we raise? Like, what's wrong with him? Mentally." And then, but now, just like the project I put out, they were excited. Like, oh man, they were even like, hey, show me how to get this on my phone so I can show other people, And I think they know too, like, and that's another big thing with me. I want my parents to be able to listen to my stuff, or be able to say my son did this and not feel ashamed. Like, or if somebody said, I heard your son's song, I don't want them to be like, oh,
it's legacy, bro.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
He's talking about, doing this and doing that, and they're like, nah, I don't want that for my, that might sound hokey, but it's just, that could be the way we were raised, it's just like, to some degree, I do care what they think,
I think it's maturity, man.
I
I think that's maturity, and that goes with that legacy idea of like, you want to leave something that's you're proud of, you know, with your family, and like,
and that they can be proud.
Yeah, man, I love that. Okay. I love the fact that you talked about all right, because we're going to get into that performance, and I love hearing the little bit about that. Did the music come first, or did the song idea, lyrics happen first?
Music came first.
So you had that track kind of developed out?
I had the track, and then you put the bass line on there.
Okay.
I don't know. Did I send you the lyrics with the music with the lyrics before you put the bass?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And then, the music, and then the... Okay. And then even that one, like even at the end, I try to have a little fun with it, but it's because to me it's a fun
I love
song.
The bridge. I love the bridge and how you and I heard this the other day. This producer of Destiny's Child song, Ronnie Jerkins.
Yeah.
He said that he was mixing one of the most famous songs I can't think of right now, but I'm going blank. But they're in the mixing phase, and the guy's like. Rodney was like, he's sitting with the mix engineer and he goes, this is trash. Like, the music is terrible. And the guy was like, you made the music. He was like, I know, it's not right. He goes, give me 6 hours. And he came back. I'm going to think of what this song is, but He came back in 6 hours. He just said, "Let me have the vocals. I'm gonna change the music." And it was like this massive hit. You know what I mean? It's like, and for that song, All Right, you were like, dude, cut the music at the end and let's just do like an acapella thing with the clap. And I was like, that was so perfect, man. Like, so I don't know. I think there's a little bit of this like, man, we need to be free to be open to like changing things in order, like, go with our gut essentially to make the song as good as it can be. So kudos to you on that. Because that change, killer. Like,
but then you added like, hey, y'all gave you your kudos, but when you sent me the change, I was like, wait a minute, dude, this sounds. And you were like, yeah, I took some liberties or whatever. But hey, that made it enough. I shot you credits on the thing. I was like, bro, hey, he produced on this. It enhanced the track. Like that was even then, that's a collaboration. You know, that's where I wouldn't have thought to put that in there. But when you did it, it was like, okay.
Love it. Okay, I have a new segment I'm calling 10 Things.
Okay.
And right now it's only 9 things, but eventually it'll be 10 things. But so I'm going to ask, and then you just tell me the first thing that comes to your brain. So favorite concert you ever been to?
Outkast, AC, Austin City Limits, the last time they performed.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
That was the only time. I thought I'd never get to see them again. Oh, I thought I would never get to see them ever. And I was able to make that.
That sounds sick. Favorite song that you can't stop listening to?
Song for You, Donny Hathaway.
Ooh. I thought you were gonna say Anthony Hamilton because we have this Anthony
Hamilton.
Anthony
Hamilton is nice.
So
yeah. But that one with Donny, I say, man, if I died, I want that at my funeral.
Wow.
You know? Yeah,
that's powerful. Favorite plug-in or virtual instrument that you always end up using?
That's gonna be Contact.
Yeah.
By Native Instruments.
Okay.
Yeah.
What library inside of Contact do you gravitate towards?
The most? I know I use that battery a lot.
So good.
But then, man, you can't go wrong because the percussions sound good with, like, I like to use like the djembe drums and a lot of the foreign type things. But then again, just the general music library and the giant piano. I love that giant piano.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, because you can get into some intricacies and mess with that to kind of make your own little sounds.
So good.
But I like the Contact as a whole because it's a sampler.
Yeah.
And so I can manipulate sounds so easy through that thing.
Love it.
Yeah.
What's your DAW of choice? Which one do you use?
It's Persona Studio One.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now I would say running a close second, I just couldn't. I couldn't afford to have them both, so would be Ableton.
Yeah, Ableton's really good.
Yeah,
Ableton's good.
And if I probably would have. Ableton, the price tag was a little steep for me to like. That's what I started in when I started.
Yeah, but you would love
production.
that actually. Ableton took a lot about like sampling and just manipulating the audio and.
But the more I got away from sampling, like I guess now I don't sample. I sample for instrumentation. Now I don't sample loops, like if that makes sense, because I don't have time to be trying to clear royalties. If something did take off, man, they get so much of it, it would have been worth my time even doing. So
distribution platform of choice.
It's DistroKid.
Okay, I've been using that too. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. BMI or ASCAP?
BMI.
Favorite rapper?
Andre 3000.
Okay.
Hands down.
Favorite singer?
I'm going to have to go with, that's going to be, can I give two? And the only reason I say that is because one of them sampled, the library isn't as deep as Lauryn Hill. So she came out, I was in love, blew my mind, never heard anything like that, right? Which a lot of people say that.
Oh, yeah.
But if you ask me now.
Yeah, now.
Rachel Price.
Okay.
With Late Street Dive.
I don't think I know Rachel Price.
Then you are depriving yourself, man. Hey,
that's why I have these conversations so I can learn, bro.
Hey, I don't like. I had to contain myself. Like I get excited. Like when I hear new artists and new sound, and it's coming across in a new, genuine way that I'm like. She can go like, and it might, and I don't know necessarily as far as range. She might not be the best singer I've ever heard, but as far as just my favorite singer, but from her tone, her delivery, her songwriting, I mean,
Love it.
there's the sensualness. Like she can be straight up hard, or she can be dial it back and just like draw you in. Definitely. You gotta check that out, man. Oh, we're gonna listen. Before I leave today, I'll play one of our tracks
on our speaker.
Oh,
nice.
man.
Okay, man. Well, thank you so much again for this conversation, bro. It's been an honor just working on your stuff, and I wish only the best for your music, man, for your family. Just keep being inspired, man. Keep being creative. It's a weird time in the world right now with COVID and just different things that are happening in our nation. But, man, thank you for I really think that, like, art, and specifically music, it's a gift, man. Like, it's a gift. And if you treat it that way, no matter where you are, you know, like if you're 20 and trying to be an artist, or if you're 40 and trying to write songs, like, I mean, it's just beautiful, man. Like, and so just keep it up. Stay committed to writing good songs, man.
Thanks, man. Hey, I do have a 10th question for you.
Okay. Oh, you got one. Okay, this is good. Okay.
What's the 150?
Oh, I meant to respond in the email because you asked me that. Yeah. So the bottom part of, so I have this tattoo on my wrist. It's Psalm. You can't see it back there, but Psalm 150.
Okay.
So that's the last book in the book of Psalms, and it says, "Let everything that has breath praise the Lord." And I've been a Christian and believer my whole life, or most of my life, and started doing music along the way. And I felt like, and that chapter specifically talks about like praising with instruments and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
So in college, I was like, I think that's I really love that chapter. It's real short. And I have the bottom part of the 5 is a bass clef, because bass was my main instrument. Okay. So people look at this and they're like, "Hey, what is Psalm 15:0?" I'm like, "No, it's a bass clef, and there's not a verse 0, you know." But yeah. So when I thought about music, I was like 150, and then 150 music, 150 media house, just kind of worked. So
okay,
it was good. Bro, let's do a performance, huh?
Okay.
All right, man. Thank you, man.
No, I appreciate it, man.
So good.
I appreciate it. This was fun. Anytime I can talk about music. Go have the time of your life. Have the time of your life. Let honor be your guide. Serve your heart along the way. The road gets rough. They will get so rough. Decisions so hard. So hard. Worlds come crashing down. But don't let them steal your faith. Just remember, you don't have to go looking for love always. And when you're on your own, you know that we're always there. Just hit us on the phone. Send a letter like a.k.a. No matter what your zone, we'll do whatever we can. Baby got a lot of love and life to give. A mother who gon' teach them what they need to live. A sibling who gon' be there through that thick and thin. A daddy who gon' make sure that they always keep the end in mind. Keep your vision to the future. Make money the mission. Mission by design, but it can't replace your time. Nothing's more valuable than your time. Compete until it's almost obsession. Ain't nothing wrong with being the best. Failure's just a part of succession. Embrace it. Momentum doesn't care about direction. Create it. So be careful where you place your conception. Curate it. You don't have to. No, you don't. We'll be right there. You know that we're always there. Hit us on the old school. Send a letter like a.k.a. No matter what you, that's cool. We'll do whatever we can. Baby got a lot to give. Teach them what they need. Teach them what they need. Always be there. you done came. And say, get back, DJ, help me get back in my groove. Say, get back, DJ, help me get back in my groove. Okay. Baby got a lot of love and life to give. A mother who gon' teach you what they need. Teach you what they need. Said they'll always be right there. Oh, if you ever get down, just remember your name. Pay homage to your kinfolk and how far you done came. And say, get back, DJ, help me get back in my groove. Get back, DJ, help me get back in my groove. If you ever get down, just remember your name. Pay homage to your kinfolk and how far you done came. Say, get back in my groove. Say, get back in my groove.